Put your hands together. Give Jesus praise. Man, it's so good to see everybody here today. Are you guys in the Christmas spirit? Yeah? You don't know what that is? It means you're smiling, you're buying presents for people. Thank God for Amazon. Man, has that changed the game or what? And if you don't know nothing about it, you're missing out. You don't ever have to go to the store, fight traffic, anything. Bad thing is, I've already gained 3 pounds, and we're 2 weeks away from Christmas. I've been eating fudge, pecans. Last night, somebody gave me some white chocolate-covered Oreos. And y'all know Oreos is my weakness. So white chocolate-covered Oreos, detrimental. So we're just excited to be in Christmas. Let me run through a couple of things with you guys because I know you'll be traveling a lot through Christmas, and I just want to make sure you know what's coming up for the next month. Everybody's on the same page. Before I do, I just want to say hello to Livingston Parish Campus, Mid-City Campus, Baker Campus, and everybody watching online and watching on television, welcome. But look up here real quick. I want to show you, in a week and a half, we're going to be at Christmas, and December the 24th, we're going to do our Christmas services here at our South Baton Rouge campuses. There's going to be 3 different times, 3 p.m., 4:30 p.m., and 6 p.m. It's called the Song of Christmas. It's going to be a lot of singing. We're going to let you sing a lot. And then I've even talked my wife into speaking a little bit. So you definitely don't want to miss that. She's kind of in between, but maybe if y'all shout, you'll talk her into it. I think you did it. But so it's just going to be fantastic. But here's the deal. Since all of our campuses are coming together, Convergent on South Campus, we expect the building to be packed for each of those services. And you don't have to RSVP, but if you do RSVP, we'll make sure that you have a seat. So the way you can do that is just go on our website, bethany.com/RSVP, and you can tell us how many people you're coming, how many people you're bringing from your family. And I just encourage you to make it a part of your family routine on Christmas Eve, and you're going to have a blast. I know you will. The second thing I want to tell you about is when we get into the new year, Bethany always has had a tradition of dedicating the first part of the year to God. And we do that through prayer, seeking God, reading the Word of God, fasting, just going after God with all of our heart. And we call that first week. We're going to be doing that, and that starts on January the 4th. And then right after that, we are going to conclude that time with 3 nights that we call Nights of Revival. And those are going to be amazing. The first night, John Gray, who's an incredible, incredible speaker. You can go and YouTube him. He's hilarious. He's one of the funniest guys in the world, but still an amazing speaker. And then Tuesday night, John Bevere is going to be with us. And Wednesday night, William McDowell will be leading worship. And my dad will be in the house preaching on that Wednesday night. So you talk about an incredible time coming in January. And then I start a brand new series in January that we're calling Detox. And it's about detoxing from all the worldly noise. Now, you know we're going to have to detox from some physical things like fudge and all that stuff, but we're going to talk about detoxing our souls and getting our spirits right with God in that first part of the year. So that's going to be an amazing series. I wanted to kind of give you a synopsis of what's coming. Now, this Sunday, we've been building up for several weeks, and we're calling it Kingdom Builders Weekend. We launched Kingdom Builders at the beginning of this year, and the whole passion behind Kingdom Builders was to give a road for people that felt like they have the gift of giving, based upon Romans chapter 12, have the gift of giving. And it's been building all year long, and we've clarified Kingdom Builders into 5 different lanes. And I want you to pull out that pamphlet that we gave you when you came in that says Kingdom Builders on it. And I want to take you through it and just walk you through clarity, who we are as a church, what are some of the causes that you can get passionate about and get behind. If you look on the left-hand side of the page, I want to take you through those 5 lanes of Kingdom Builders. The first lane there is our global strategy. I believe that every local church should not just be focused on their own community, but should have a global participation in seeing the gospel advanced around the world. Bethany has had a passion for church planting. That is kind of our deal. We love planting churches around the world, and since the year 2000, we've planted close to 25,000 churches around the world. Amen. To God be the glory for that. If you were to go anywhere in the world, we divided the world into 12 zones, you probably could find a church that Bethany has planted through Surge. And it's because of your generosity that we've been able to do that. And so that's one of our main outlets globally. We also believe in supporting Israel and supporting the church in Israel. That's one of our global strategies. But then we also have random things that come up throughout the year. One of them, most recently, is there's a feeding program in West Africa for widows and orphans in that Ebola-stricken part of the world. and we are feeding a bunch of widows and orphans. So they have things like that come up that are random. But that's our global strategy. Then we move to our local strategy. And we don't think that we can do everything as a church. We have some amazing talent in our church that does outreaches, and I believe A-Team Outreach is one of our best ways that we do outreach. I'm so proud of our A-Team Outreach. Just that team alone this year has seen 2,000 people give their hearts to Jesus Christ. Let's hear it for our A-Team Outreach. And yesterday in Zion City, we did an outreach there, and over 20 young people gave their hearts to Jesus. That's A-Team Outreach. So we believe in that for a local strategy. But also, we're partnering with a lot of organizations that are amazing, ministries and charities. And they range from rescuing girls out of sex trafficking to pro-life movement to helping kids get GEDs. So it's a broad spectrum of people that we support, and that's part of our local strategy. Then if you move to the next area, that's called our influence. When you're 53 years old, do we got anybody that's 50 and up in the house at all of our campuses? Awesome. Bethany is 53 years old. And you know when you're 53, most of the time you have a kid, and some of us have grandkids when we're that age. Bethany no longer exists for ourselves, but we're helping lots of young churches to find stability and to be planted. And so we have a responsibility to help pastors, and we're doing that around the world and nationally. We do that through roundtables, we do conferences, and God has blessed our music to be a huge influence, also our books, our resources. And so that is some passion points for people that want to see the local church established. The next thing that you'll see there on the pamphlet is our next generation. If God decides that He wants to leave us here for another 50 years, what does the church look like 20 years from now, 30 years from now? It's the next generation. If we fail at teaching these truths and passing these truths to the next generation, we fail. And that's why our kids are such a priority. Be kids, be tots. We have a Christian school, Bethany Christian School. But we also have Bethany College. And Bethany College is something we started 2 years ago, but it's going great. And the purpose of it is to raise up local church leaders to send out around the world. And so people are coming, young people are coming. We're training them, and they're going back as student pastors, worship pastors, and some will potentially even be lead pastors of churches. And so that's our passion for the next generation. And then the final one that you'll see there is expansion, Bethany expansion. If you're new here, I just want to tell you something that's going on in the last couple of years. We've been able to see 2 new campuses launched, and our Spanish service actually became a campus. And so we are a church of 5 campuses now, as God has provided more places for people to gather and worship. And Livingston Parish was started in 2014, and then Mid-City was started in 2015. And as God adds these new campuses, there's opportunities for new buildings to be built. And one thing that we're very passionate about right now is for our Livingston Parish campus. We just purchased land for them right off of Jubin Crossing, and we're endeavoring now to clear the land and do some site development and that kind of thing. But if you're passionate about Bethany expanding as a local church, that is a cause, and that's a lane for you. So those are our 5 lanes. Now, if you look on the right-hand side of the pamphlet, go ahead and look at that. The offering that we're going to take today is our very first offering that we're calling Kingdom Builders Offering. It's the one time of year that we take everything that comes in and we give it all away. And nothing stays here to pay the light bills or buy seats and chairs, sound systems. Nothing stays here. We give 100% of it away. So it's like a big giving party. And I've been excited about it for four weeks as we've been building up to this thing. And by the end of this service, I can't wait to see what God does through this local church. But on the right-hand side of the page is our giving focus for this offering. Everything that you give in this offering is going towards those strategic points on the right-hand side of that pamphlet. You'll see the first one is local strategy. There's about 20 charities and ministries that they don't know right now, but this week we're going to show up at their doorstep and knock on their door and say, on behalf of the people of Bethany, we want to bless you and we believe in your ministry. A lot of these ministries, one of them that I heard about yesterday that we're going to help support, helps special need adults that are homeless. And it's a ministry that's not really funded well, but they're great people. We know the people that are running it. And there's about 20 of these. Some of them we already partner with, and some of them we've never partnered with before, but we're going to show up at their doorstep, and we're going to bless them big time. Another way that we're going to use this offering is God has blessed Bethany with a lot of church relationships here in the city. I thank God that we're not the only church that's doing something great. There's a lot of great churches, and one of my friends that pastors in the inner city of Baton Rouge texted me a few days ago, and he said, Pastor, if y'all are doing anything special for Christmas, I know 3 churches right now that are just starting, and they're really struggling and they need help. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually fund these other churches to fund the programs that they need, and we're going to show up at their doorstep and say, on behalf of the people of Bethany, we want to bless your church, and we want to bless people through your church. And so that's going to be a huge sign of unity. And then if you keep looking further down, we're going to go to global strategy, and we're going to use some of this money to plant churches, but then we're also going to fund evangelistic organization. You'll see there, Bernie Moore, evangelistic. They're very similar to like Reinhard Bonnke. They do crusades around the world, and God spoke to our hearts to do something for them this year. So we're going to fund a lot of those things that you see. One of them is a church planter in Laos. He's planted a lot of churches in Southeast Asia, but he has no way to visit those churches except by walking and by bicycle, and he doesn't know it, but we're going to help him to get a car or a truck to be able to go visit those churches. So that's part of the global strategy. And then at the very bottom there, you will have an opportunity on the envelope that we gave you to distinguish if you would like to be a part of this Bethany expansion project. What we're going to do with that is we're going to help clear the land for the Livingston Parish property, and all the people at Livingston Parish said, amen. I know where you guys are all going to give your money. But to clear the land, do site development, and so that's optional for you. If you'd like to give a part of the offering towards that, you can. So that's Kingdom Builders offering. And you know, around this time of year, everybody's giving presents to one another. Unless you're a Scrooge, right? You're doing the best you can to give presents to one another. But did you know Christmas is all about Jesus, and really we're celebrating Jesus' birthday. So I want you to consider today being his birthday present, okay? Well, let's put him first, and let's do something big for God. And the cool thing about it is we're literally going to bless hundreds of people. So now I want you to grab the outline that we gave you when you came in, and I want to talk to you for a few moments about the joy of generosity. The joy of generosity. How fulfilling it can be to be a channel of blessing. Look at Acts chapter 20 and verse 35. You'll recognize this scripture. You probably didn't know that it was a Bible verse, but you will know today. And I have been a constant example. This is Paul talking. I've been a constant example of how you can help those in need by working hard. You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed. Say blessed. Now say Makarios. Say Makarios. Now the way you can remember that when you go home is say Mac Oreos. Like mac and cheese and Oreos, and put it together, Makarios. And that is the word for blessed in the Greek. What that word actually translates, I put it in your outline, it means the joy of participating in the divine kingdom. So when Jesus says it's blessed, it means there's a joy that comes from participating in God's kingdom. I believe intrinsically all of us have this need to be a part of God's kingdom and to see it advance. And when we do it, there's a joy and a satisfaction that we get that we can't get from any other place. Now I want to draw your attention to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, and I'm going to read this portion of Scripture. This is Paul writing to the Corinthian church. And here's the deal, guys. Paul was an apostle that planted churches all around the world. But what he wanted to do was to take an offering among all the churches and bring a huge offering to the church of Jerusalem because the people there were in dire need. And so he was collecting from all the churches, and they were going to be a huge blessing to the church in Jerusalem. Now, this church in Corinth was the most excited about this offering. They were the ones that eagerly stepped up and said, we want to be a huge part of this offering. So Paul is writing them in 2 Corinthians. You can go study it on your own time, but with that context, you can read 2 Corinthians 8 and 2 Corinthians 9, and Paul is talking about this offering that they wanted to do for the church of Jerusalem. This is him saying in verse 1, I really don't need to write to you about this ministry of giving for the believers in Jerusalem, for I know how eager you are to help. Just underline that, eager you are to help. Guys, you need to know something about the kingdom of God. that when you come into God's kingdom, it's a generous house. Many of us come from different backgrounds. Maybe you come from needy background, poor background, or stingy background. But God's house, and in his house, there is massive generosity because he is generous. If you get close to God, he's the most generous. If you think you know a generous person compared to God, they're nothing. God is so generous that he gave his only son. God lavishly pours out. And so the culture of the kingdom of God is a generous culture. And it's a culture that you have to grow in. You can get saved and still not understand that as a Christian, we are to be open-handed with the poor, with people around us. We are to bless people more than any other type of person. That's the calling of a Christian, is to be generous just like our Father God. And so Paul is saying, I know how eager you are to help because there's a culture of generosity. And I'm praying for myself, I pray for us as a church that we would grow in this grace of generosity, not just towards God's house, but just in life, that everybody would know us as a generous person, open-handed, because the more we're generous, the more we're like our Father God. He says, I know how you're eager to help, and I've been boasting to the churches in Macedonia that you in Greece were ready to send an offering a year ago. In fact, it was your enthusiasm that stirred up many of the Macedonian believers to begin giving. So I thought I should send these brothers ahead of me to make sure the gift you promised is ready. Now watch this. But I want it to be a willing gift, not one giving grudgingly. Now here's the rules for today's offering. All right? Ground rules. If you feel pressured and you don't want to give and you're like, man, I knew I'm coming to church, they're going to get my money. If that is a feeling, please don't give. I'm asking you, begging you, please don't give. All right? Because I really believe you forfeit the blessing when you don't give with the right heart. I believe that God is looking for the right heart. So Paul says, don't give grudgingly. And so please hear me clearly. Don't feel pressured at all today to give if you don't want to give. This is a giving party. I'm pumped about giving, and it's going to hurt me. Angie and I just prayed and asked God what we're going to do, and it's going to hurt. But I'm excited about it. I'm joyful about it. I'm not giving grudgingly. Now let's keep reading. Remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop, but the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. You must each decide in your heart how much to give. Now, in my Christian experience, if I could just share with you guys how God speaks to me about giving. As the pastor of this church, God has blessed us so tremendously, and I want to just brag on you as a local church. You are the most generous congregation that as I talk to other pastors, they cannot believe what we're able to do for missions and what we're able to do because God has truly given this church a heart of generosity. But because of that, many times we get needs. People asking all the time, can you do this? Can you support this ministry? Can you give to this? And if I wasn't led by the Spirit, we'd be bankrupt because we just give to everything and not have any money to do anything. But I never give based upon pressure or based upon friendships or never. If I'm requested, hey, will you support this ministry or this evangelistic deal or this whatever, I always say, Holy Spirit, you lead, you guide. And we talk about it amongst the council, and we're led by the Spirit. And that's how we decide. And in my personal finances, Angie and I, if when there's an opportunity to give, we pray. And I say, Holy Spirit, speak to me. What would you have me give? And what I've found is when I ask, God puts a number in my heart. Sometimes I think it's the devil. I'm like, no, that ain't you. I bind that in the name of Jesus. Lord, give me a much lower number because I know you want it lower. But oftentimes, and listen, I don't have any special connection to God than every one of you have. All of you have the Spirit of God living inside of you, and you can pray, and you say, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to speak? If he says nothing, then that's what it is. It's nothing. But if he says something sacrificial, you embrace it. And if you're married, tell your spouse to pray and go with a higher number. No, just playing. But you pray, and Angie and I will both pray. And this is what's amazing is many times it's exactly the same thing. And sometimes she misses it every once in a while, but I'm just playing. No, I'm the one that misses it. But that's what Paul is talking about. Each person must make up their own mind how much they are to give. And this is what I would challenge you today. In the last 4 weeks, we've been building up to this offering. I want you to give what you've decided in your heart to give. And then it says, don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, For God loves a person who gives cheerfully. The reason why God wants a cheerful heart when we give is because that's how his heart is when he gives. He is the most cheerful giver. So he doesn't like it. It's like my kids. If I saw them, and this is a funny story, but one of my daughters was on her way to a birthday party, and she was giving a present that she really wanted. Like she really wanted the present that she was going to give. So she was sad the whole way because she didn't want to give the birthday present. And I noticed that she was sad, but I couldn't figure out why. And it's because she wanted the present. And I said, baby, you can't be like that. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Now, of course, a child doesn't understand that concept. I've been telling them it's more blessed to give than to receive. And they're like, no, it's not. It's very good to receive. But it is more blessed to give than to receive. Now, I'm going to give you 5 moments of joy. And there in your outline, you can fill out these blanks. 5 moments of joy that come when we give. The first moment of joy comes when you meet a need. When you meet a need. There's something that is fulfilling about seeing someone else that is in need, and you are the solution to that problem. Amen. The book of James says this: if you see a brother that doesn't have clothing or food, and you turn away and say, be warm, I hope you're well, and you do nothing to help it, that you're not even a Christian. Because part of Christianity is seeing a need and seeing how you can be the fulfillment to that need. And there is a great joy that comes when you meet a need. There was a guy in our church several years back that I was good friends with, and he had never been fishing a day in his life. And his dad was kind of absent in his childhood. He never had the opportunity. He'd never been on a boat, never been fishing. And I said, man, would you like to go fishing? And he said, I don't know. And I said, look, you've never been fishing with me. I don't fish, I catch. I speak them into the net. But I said, you come fishing with me. So we went down to Venice, Louisiana, and it's hard not to catch fish down in Venice, Louisiana. We got on the Mississippi River. We went 45 minutes. It was a boat ride to the fishing spot. And the whole way there, the sun was barely coming up over the sky. He'd never been in a boat before, never fished. He was smiling from ear to ear. I mean, just the biggest grin. The funny thing was, I was smiling bigger than him the whole time, just watching him smile. I'm like, man, this is great. Look at him. He's having so much fun. And I've been fishing a lot, but that was the most fulfilling. And then when he tied into a redfish, if you've ever tied into a bull redfish, a 30-pound redfish, all the men said amen. Is this a manly church or what? Tie into a 30-pound redfish. And he was like, this is awesome. And I was screaming, yes, it's awesome. We were hugging, and it was the best thing ever because I was a part of meeting a need. And it's the same feeling you get when you see your grandkid open a Christmas present and they smile from ear to ear. When you meet a need, it just brings joy to your heart. And I'm going to tell you about this Kingdom Builders offering. We're going to meet hundreds of needs. Some of them I haven't even said to you guys because it's going to be a surprise. Next week, we're going to show a video of all the needs that were met. And many of them are down and out people that are even from our own congregation. And we're just going to show up on the doorsteps and bless and be a part of blessing. But we're going to meet some major needs. You're not just going to meet one need. We're going to meet hundreds of needs. So it's going to be awesome. Then the second moment of joy, it comes when you plant a seed. The Bible talks about sowing seed because most of the people in that day were farmers and they understood that type language. Jesus used this type language. Paul used this type language. But I want to draw your attention back to 2 Corinthians 9, verse 6. Remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop. But the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. Keep the scripture up there. Now, I brought with me some seeds in a jar. And these are sunflower seeds because I didn't know what other kind of seeds I could get. They're salted. Do any of you guys like to eat sunflower seeds? I'm not coordinated enough to get the seed out, so I just suck the salt and spit it out. The salt is good. But the Bible uses the illustration of seed and says, if you sow a few seeds, you're going to get a little bit of harvest. But if you sow all of your seed, if you sow plenty, you're going to get a huge harvest. It's just math. And so I want you to see yourself as a believer. This is what God has placed in your care. This is your time, this is your talent, and this is your treasure. Okay? That's all in here. Now, you can choose whatever you want out of here to sow, but you're only going to get out of the ground what you put in the ground. And so the reason why it's so joyful to sow is because when you see a seed go in good soil, you know that it's going to produce fruit. So this thing is not like we're flushing money down a toilet. This thing has repercussions eternally in people's lives. Listen how much harvest comes. The person that you're giving it to receives a harvest. You receive a harvest of joy. The kingdom receives a harvest. God receives a harvest of worship, and God is even happy about it. It is a massive harvest. And so if you just sow sparingly, you're going to get sparing results. But if you kind of say, hey, I'm making a big mess. But imagine if you just, you sow generously, you're going to reap generously. Now, here's the qualification. Don't give grudgingly, but give in faith, give with excitement, give as if you're putting it in God's hands. Philippians says it's a sweet-smelling aroma to God. It's a sacrifice. It's well-pleasing. And give generously. So there's joy that comes when you plant a seed. The third time that joy comes is when you partner with God. It amazes me that God actually wants to partner with me to accomplish His purpose. With 7 billion people on the planet, I would think that He has no time for me, that He has no time to even listen to my prayers. But more than Him wanting to listen to my prayers, He wants to be a partner with me. He's looking for someone. Now, guys, this is so important. You got to catch this. There are some people that God wants to reach, and you are His solution to reaching that person. And if you don't obey, you hinder what God would want to do through that person. And many times we pray, God, please just bless them. And He's like, I'm trying to through you. We're praying for other solutions. It's like a road that goes under construction. There's nothing more frustrating than getting on a road and then closing it and saying detour. If you go to that same road and it's closed for a year, you're going to stop going to that road because that road is under construction. You're going to choose alternate routes. And I believe in God's economy. He wants to use you and partner with you. But if your road is always closed and you never listen and you never open up, God's going to find somewhere else and somebody else to be a blessing. But why not you? Because, man, when you feel like God is using you, it brings such great joy and fulfillment. I think about the boy that had 5 loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus said, bring him here. If I was that young man, I would feel such a cool satisfaction. You want me? You want my? And he surrendered those 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and it was multiplied to feed 5,000 men, not including women and children. I bet he was you think he was smiling? That little kid? I bet he ran home and was like, Mama! You're not going to believe what happened. Jesus used my 5 loaves and my 2 fish to feed thousands of people. And she said, yeah, right. But he was excited for being able to partner with God. So there's a joy that comes from that. The fourth time that joy comes, a moment that joy comes, is when you're a part of something bigger than yourself. Here's something that's a fact. Everybody wants to be on a team that's changing the world. You want to feel like you're making a difference. Am I right? I know I want to be on a winning team. I want to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. And that, man, guys, I don't feel like we even have a clue how thankful we should be for God giving us the local church that He's given us here. We are so blessed to have one another, to have this team to change the world. Listen to this. This year, we were believing for 8,000 people to make decisions for Christ. As of last week, 9,794 people have given their hearts to Jesus. And after this weekend, it'll be close to 10,000. When we hit the new year, we'll have seen over 10,000 people make decisions for Jesus Christ. And hey, that is our work together No man gets the credit. No man glories. The glory is the Lord's. But it's us working together. It's the unity. Now listen to this. You are sitting in someone else's sacrifice. You are listening to someone else's sacrifice. You are watching someone else's sacrifice. And only heaven knows and is keeping the record. Maybe the seat you paid for, somebody just got saved in that seat. You never know when you are a part of a body that's powerful, what can happen. And so there's a joy that comes from feeling like, man, my team is winning. We are winning. And it's fun to see people get saved, to see people find Christ. We're part of a team that's winning. Let me share the word unity with you. Say unity. Maybe you want to write this, grab this thought. Unity is not the absence of strife, but the presence of strategy. The absence of strife, but the presence of strategy. Peace is the absence of strife, but unity is the presence of strategy with us all moving together in harmony. 2 years back, I was a part of a group of international leaders, about 150 people that were great men of God. Every one of them is doing amazing things around the world. What I remarked at is that out of that group of 150, all of them were doing great works, but none of them were doing great works together. And it came across to me, the Lord spoke to me, the last phase in the kingdom's expansion around the world is for walls to come down, egos to come down, and global strategy come into play where kingdom players are working together to see the Great Commission fulfilled. Let me just give you one concept. What if every state in the United States, just 1,000 churches in each state, were to adopt only one country and say, we'll send all of our mission dollars, we'll send all of our missionaries, we'll plant all of our churches in this country? Guys, in about 12 months, we'd seal the deal. But the problem is a lack of common strategy. But I believe God is involved in all of that. But here locally, what it means is, on that list, there's those churches that we're uniting with. I was meeting with those pastors this past week right here at South Campus behind the platform, and we were talking about how unity is the presence of strategy. And we have such great friendships and relationships. It's really a fraternity of pastors, but there's no common strategy. And I said, what if we were to all unite and do something together? And every one of them resonated with it. And so this year, and back in August, we did the massive outreach. We had 3,500 volunteers on the ground in Baton Rouge, picking up street trash in streets, doing things for God, seeing people saved. But this year we said, what if we all did it together, all of the churches, and these represent the largest churches in Baton Rouge. You would know probably the majority of them. But these pastors, we're all going to unite together. No name is going to be out. It's going to be a nameless, faceless, just the church of Christ. And we are praying to put 10,000 people on the streets of Baton Rouge, cleaning up, serving the people of Baton Rouge, and showing the love of Jesus. Tell me that's not going to get somebody's attention. And I don't know, the way goals work around here, whatever we say, God always increases it. So we'll see what happens. But what that means for us as a local church, all of us, I want you to grab this. All of our campuses, lock into me. Maybe you're at peace with the church, but you're not in unity with the church. And that just means maybe you're a tender, but you don't know the vision. If we were to do an outreach, you're like, yeah, that's for those guys that are really in there. Or if we do a big offering like this, what's going on in your heart? Yeah, man, I hope they do good. No, this is you. This is us. You're a part of this. Every person here, every person, every campus. Unity means we align ourselves behind a common strategy. Read Paul's writings in Ephesians chapter 4 and Philippians chapter 2. He prayed that they would be one. Jesus' last prayer in John 17, I pray that they would be one as we are one. That's a common strategy and goal. And our opportunity today is to do something significant together. Huge together. Because what you could do by yourself is small. But if every person does something small, we all do something big. Amen. The fifth moment that joy comes is when you see the harvest. I think this has a lot to do with heaven. When you show up to heaven and somebody walks up to you from Ethiopia, where we planted a church, and they somehow connected the dots that it was your dollars that planted that church, and they just say, I would not be in heaven if it wasn't for your sacrifice. Talk about a joy that comes from that. But I believe there's a joy even in this life when we see the harvest. A few years back, Bethany was a part of planning a crusade in Nigeria. It cost us close to $1 million. The beautiful thing about it is one man in our church wrote $1 million check to make that crusade in Nigeria happen. Now, when you spend $1 million, you want to fly over there and make sure it happens, right? So we flew over there, and we were a part in Agoja, Nigeria, and we witnessed over 5 nights, 1 million people made decisions for Christ. Afterwards, we came home, and we realized the fact that $1 equaled 1 eternal soul. You pay you pay $5 for a Starbucks. Think about $5 saving a human soul, or $1 saving a human soul from hell. But the reward, the harvest, and joy comes in the harvest. And this is what the harvest is going to look like. This week, we're going to take everything that's given in this Kingdom Builders offering, and we're going to give. We're going to give, and we're going to get it on camera. Next week, we're going to show you a video of the smiles of people who were not expecting. There are ministries out there that are about to go down, and because of what we do, they're going to stay open. And there are people out there are mothers out there that haven't been able to afford presents for their kids, and because of your generosity, they're going to afford. It's amazing. When we see the harvest, I'm telling you, it's going to be a party. This week is going to be a party because we're sowing seeds, but next week, we're going to be reaping the harvest, and it's going to be incredible. Look at this verse in Isaiah. This is a prophecy about Jesus. When he sees all that is accomplished by his anguish or by his sacrifice, he will be satisfied. And that's what I'm praying for you, is when you see all that is accomplished by your sacrifice, you will be satisfied. Angie and I prayed about what we were to do for this weekend, and it was one of those, oh, Lord, seriously. But there's such joy in doing what we're about to do, because I know I'm partnering with you. I know that what I'm doing is connecting with what you're doing, and together we're going to do something amazing.
Thanks for joining us today for Bethany's Weekend Experience. We hope that you were encouraged and challenged during the message. If you made a decision to follow Christ, or maybe you've rededicated your life to the Lord, we want to encourage you to tell someone about it. Tell your family, a friend, and feel free to tell us about it by clicking the Talk About It button on our homepage. If you need prayer for anything else, just go to our homepage and click Request Prayer button. We'd love to have you join us or come visit one of our 4 campuses for a live worship experience. We hope you had a great day, and we'll see you next time.